The Home Secretary has announced extra measures to deal with protests following the disruption caused by the Insulate Britain group. Now, we've discussed protest tactics here more than once, but what about the protesters' cause? How would we insulate Britain and how much would it cost? So, Donnachadh, to you first of all, before we drill into the costs, tell me why you think it's important for the environment for us to all insulate our houses.
Sure, around 15% of the UK's carbon emissions comes from heating. And so therefore it's crucial that we tackle the emissions from Britain's homes, which are among the worst insulated in Europe. So it's essential, if we actually insulate our homes, we cut the cost of running them and the emissions from them by over a third. So it's crucial to put this top of the agenda for the government.
So essentially, we don't need to turn the heating up so much if we're well insulated in our homes. It helps bring down the emissions, is essentially what you're saying, is it?
Absolutely. The amount it would cost to run and heat your home would be at least a third, if not more, if our homes were properly insulated. It's not just carbon emissions, though, of course. It also is the huge issue of excess winter deaths. Around 8,000 pensioners a year are dying from actually living in cold homes across Britain. Nearly 5 million people in Britain are living with fuel poverty, having to try and make the choice between food and heating their homes. Okay. So it's just a no-brainer for us to be insulating our homes across Britain.
OK, and this is what the Leader of the Opposition, Vicky, has said about it. He said we have the least energy-efficient housing in Europe. So if we're going to do something about it, Vicky, how much would it cost?
Well, the things that you need to do, of course, when you are trying to insulate the home, particularly one which was built some time ago, is to deal with all sorts of different parts of the house that need insulating. So you have loft insulation, you have cavity wall insulation, you have floor insulation, you have drought excluders. You can do all sorts of things. And of course, each of those costs quite a lot. And given that we have loads of old homes, the average cost for the older homes is considerably higher than, say, building a new house, or those that perhaps have been built in the last couple of decades. So if you add it all up and you look at an old house might cost to do all these things that I just mentioned, including, of course, improving the heating itself, so converting from gas boilers to other ways of heating your home, which are more efficient, could be up to £28,000, £30,000. It could be a bit less for the ones that were built more recently. So if you multiply that, we have 29 million homes in the UK, roughly.
Okay.
So quite a lot of them need to be insulated. We're talking about hundreds of billions, and that's the real issue. Where is the money going to come from?
Well, yeah, you're shaking your head there, Donnachadh, but it's a lot of money that needs to be found. How are we going to pay for this?
Yeah, just multiplying it by 26 million is nonsense. 50% of UK houses already have their walls insulated. We need to insulate the other 50%. The estimate is that we need to spend 6 billion a year to 2035. That comes out as 75 billion. We could actually fund that easily by actually switching the investment from HS2, which is just going to cut an hour for rich people traveling by train to Edinburgh, to investing in people's homes for poor people to lower their bills and make them warm and cut our carbon emissions. Paid for, no problem.
And Vicky, the long-promised Heat and Buildings bill is due to be announced by the government, so we may get more details on what their plans are. But quickly come back at Donnachadh there. He disagrees with your figures, very briefly.
No, I mean, he may be right in terms of what has happened so far and what still is needed to be done. But I mean, the numbers are still, well, I said, hundreds of billions, I'm sorry, in any case, that needs to be spent. But the issue is maybe, whatever. There are loads and loads of different calculations of what is actually required. It's still a lot of money. I don't disagree that we're going to have to think about how that can be spent, whether we should be switching from something else, and whether, in fact, taxes need to be increased. But also, I think there has to be a lot of support for the individual homeowner. What we've seen is the moment cheap options disappear, the homeowner just doesn't do the loft insulations that are needed. They just move out of even bothering to do any of those, taking any of those measures that would save quite a lot of energy.
Interesting stuff, and I'm sure we'll talk a lot more about this in the weeks ahead.